So the 2024 NBA draft is tonight, round 1 at least, round 2 tomorrow, and there are a lot of 76ers rumors that we want to pass along in the lead up to the draft. An absolutely loaded show here on 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic Wednesday. And right here on 76ers Now, we're going live tonight for round 1. And we're going live for round 2 tomorrow. So make sure you join us. We will be live with the show getting underway an hour before the draft, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon as well. Turn on those notifications. Therefore, when we do go live, you can hang out here with us. And it's going to be some fantastic coverage of the NBA draft. We'll react to every single pick with in-depth scouting profiles on all of the prospects here tonight. Let's start off with this, and as a Sixers fan, it was very frustrating last night to see the New York Knicks trade for Mikal Bridges. And the New York Knicks have continued to tap into the Villanova pipeline. They bring in Jalen Brunson. They bring in Dante DiVincenzo. They have Josh Hart on the roster, and now they're bringing in Bridges. The last time that they were all together on the floor on the same team, they won the national championship with that epic buzzer beater as Ryan Arcidiacono pitched it back to Chris Jenkins, and then Jay Wright on the sideline, bang. And you see the Boston Celtics winning the NBA championship. Now what the Knicks are trying to do, load up at the wing spot. They trade for Bridges. They might re-sign OG Anunoby. Those are two defenders who could make life more difficult for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And this was a dream trade target for Philadelphia. I would have done the same deal if I were the Sixers because Bridges would be a perfect fit alongside Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. He's durable, he's young, he's affordable, he's under contract, he can hit the three, he can hit a dribble pull-up, he's an elite defender. You might say that's way too much to give up for Bridges. My counter to that, it's all about the fit. And this is a championship-level player here that the Knicks have traded for. And I worry that the Celtics have already surpassed the Sixers. And now the Knicks, who beat the Sixers in the first round, have surpassed Philadelphia here. So 4 unprotected picks, in addition to a 2025 protected first, a 2028 unprotected swap, and a 2025 second-round pick. The Knicks get Bridges and a second-rounder in 2026, and they hold on to their draft picks this year. So how this impacts Philadelphia here, expect Brooklyn to really shake things up. Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, Bojan Bogdanovic, and more, I think will be moved. They could become essentially trade targets for Philadelphia, but the Knicks got better last night, and I know that Philadelphia has all this cap space, Chip. I just worry about where they are in the Eastern Conference right now because I'm not convinced that the Sixers can make a splash move.
Yeah, and look, that Bridges move is one that we talked about a lot. We'd put together trades with 3-4 first-round picks. Everybody was like, you're giving up way too much for Bridges. And now he gets traded for 4 unprotected, 1 protected, and a first-round pick swap. So 6 firsts in total. But Look, this move is going to have a lot of ripple effects because now we officially know, and there's been reports coming out, that the Brooklyn Nets are in full sell mode. They are entering the rebuild. They are committing to it, starting with the Bridges trade. So Dorian Finney-Smith, a player we talked about a lot, would be a great fit here. Do you trade a first-round pick for him? Cam Johnson, another player that can add a lot of value to a contending team. His issue, though, been hurt a lot. But another, 3-and-D skill set. Bojan Bogdanovic just traded from the Knicks to the Nets. He'll probably be bought out or traded at some point as well. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces now that the Nets are fully in this rebuild mode. More options for the Sixers that, previously might not have been available. The Nets were still trying to contend. Now we have these guys that could help the Sixers out, additional trade targets. And there's also some things to consider on the Knicks side because, you trade for Bridges, not making too much money, just a little over $20 million. But now how does this affect the whole OG Anunoby situation? And according to Woj, they're still in on him.
Yeah, here's what Woj said. That's a good cue up by you, my man. The Knicks are still determined to keep OG Anunoby in free agency, sources tell ESPN, but the ability to re-sign center Isaiah Hartenstein becomes more difficult now. The Knicks are loading up on wings to match up with the NBA champion Boston Celtics, and that's what I said. That's kind of the sentiment here. I completely agree with that team-building strategy for New York. Isaiah Hartenstein is a player who played very well against the Sixers, by the way, in that first round. That push shot was good, really good defensively at times. He could demand $15 to $20 million average annual value on the open market. We continue our Sixers rumors roundup here with Brian Windhorst saying this about OG Anunoby. Expect the Sixers to be aggressive in pursuing him with a near max deal. And I get the thought process, right? OG Anunoby would be a good fit. Maxey, Embiid, Anunoby. He makes you better defensively. He's a much better defensive player than Tobias Harris. Offensively, I think he's a better fit than Tobias Harris. My issue is that if the Knicks replace Anunoby with Bridges, they get younger and they get the better player. The Sixers would then get the more injury-prone and lesser player who I don't think fits as well, and he's going to be more expensive. And that's the corner that the Sixers are in here. And that's why if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm giving up those draft picks for Bridges.
Yeah. Look, it's tough now because I think on one hand as well, it'd be very scary if the Knicks were able to re-sign OG. And now you have a potential lineup where you can go Jalen Brunson, obviously. You have these two switchable, versatile, two-way wings in Mikal Bridges and OG. Those two playing together would be terrifying.
Yep.
Not to mention, you still have DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein probably going to be gone now at this point. But, is it worth it to pay OG $45 million to keep him off the Knicks, pretty much?
Right.
I think, would you be paying that extra premium for? And even then, will the Knicks decide we be so good with him that we'll just pay him whatever we want? Look, I do expect the Sixers, as Windhorst says here, to be aggressive and to be interested. Will they give him a max, almost $50 million? I think that will be a mistake again because I feel like, he's not the final piece. He's a very good piece, but you still need to surround the team with other complementary pieces. So, going all in on a player like that, I'm not so sure. Would be a great fit, but, something to keep an eye on here because the Knicks do want him back still, but apparently OG wasn't super happy with their initial offer, and now does he maybe feel slighted? Like, oh, they traded for Mikal Bridges. Is he my replacement? We'll see. But free agency coming up on Sunday, going to be very, very interesting.
Now let's go to a potential 76ers draft target. And we were taking a look at the comment section following Monday's show, and a lot of people were saying Sixers should draft Zach Edey. Give me Zach Edey. We know that the backup center position and role behind Joel Embiid has been a huge disappointment. I have warmed up on the idea of Zach Edey's ability at the next level. Going into this past college basketball season, I was saying to myself, is he another Taco Fall? Is he a little bit better than Boban Marjanovic, a massive player who can get taken advantage of and be a traffic cone because in drop coverage on a pick and roll, he's going to really struggle there. I think he really will struggle with those elements of his defensive game at the next level because he's not fleet of foot, okay? He's a little bit slower. His rim protection is really good. He's in really good shape. During that run for Purdue en route to the national championship game, and this is the National Basketball College Player of the Year, he played pretty much every minute in the title game and in the Final Four. So I'm not worried about his stamina. He can protect the rim. He's a pretty skilled offensive player around the basket. I think if he develops a mid-range and a baseline jumper, that's really going to help him and allow him to take that next step offensively. It'll do wonders for him and the team on that end of the floor. I think there's some promise that he can develop that midi because the free throw stroke was really good last year and much improved from the year before. And if we're talking about Edey getting 15 to 20 minutes per night, I think there's a role for him on an NBA roster. Are you with me? Would you dislike the pick? Obviously, it hinges on the Sixers holding on to the 16th overall selection.
Yeah, look, I do like Edey as a player, and look, he obviously has his strengths. He's going to be a solid offensive player. We saw it in college. He has all the moves. He's going to be able to score inside, right? And he's gotten a lot of draft buzz recently.
Yeah.
After the beginning of the draft process, it was like end of the first round. Teams really didn't love his upside, and his upside is rather limited unless he does really develop a jump shot. If he can get that three-point shot down, his upside goes up. But as of right now, it's like how much better can he really be than what he already is? But now there's buzz that the Lakers are interested in taking him at 17 so they can play Anthony Davis at the 4. There's rumors the Blazers are interested in him as high as number 7 overall. So the buzz on Edey's wild. He's obviously a very talented player. Personally, there'd be a lot of players I would take before Edey. Tristan Da Silva, Jared McCain, some of these guards that we've talked about on the show. So he wouldn't be my number 1 option. Would I be upset if they took him if some of these other guys weren't there that they like? No. But I think I'd also rather them trade the pick for someone who could help the team a little bit more this season than just draft a backup center with this pick, honestly. So.
I think a couple themes with this draft. Not really consensus number 1. You're going to get a lot of solid rotation players, a couple of all-stars. That's about it. A lot of teams are going to be reaching on prospects. There are boomer bust players in this draft, and a lot of teams are going to be drafting by need. Sixers need a backup center. Could they draft by need and for need if they hold on to the 16th overall pick? And there's, of course, been so much chatter, really since the season ended for Philadelphia, that Daryl Morey could look to trade that pick. Adam Schefter, ESPN NFL insider, who actually really likes the NBA and has done some reporting on the NBA, obviously minuscule, said on 97.5 The Fanatic this morning in Philadelphia, I have some NBA Sixers draft buzz for you. He was on with Salchunas and Kincaid, both friends of the show, and he said that the Sixers, with that 16th overall pick, are getting a lot of calls because there's a lot of interest in that pick. As for the latest on Paul George, he wants a 4-year, $200+ million contract. The Golden State Warriors have emerged as a major threat and are prepared to give PG a max. Brian Windhorst said on the Hoop Collective podcast that PG probably wants to stay on the West Coast. The Sixers got wind of that, and that's probably why their interest in him died down. But could the Sixers, instead of signing Paul George or trading for Paul George via a sign-and trade for Kevin Durant? Stephen A. Smith said this morning that Phoenix wants to move on from KD right now. Woj saying the Suns want to run it back. Stephen A. was very adamant that the Suns want to move off of KD, and then there's Woj, and then a local reporter saying the Suns are going to run it back with Devin Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal. I think they go with the latter, and they do run it back. Chip, a Jimmy Butler update. Keith Pompey, Philadelphia Inquirer, reporting that the Sixers still plan to give Jimmy Butler a max if they can trade for him, but the Heat are unwilling to move on from him at the moment.
Yeah, so from this, it seems to me like Jimmy Butler right now might be the Sixers' number 1 trade target, right? And number 1 target overall. Paul George seems like, they don't really want to have to go the whole sign-and-trade route. They'd rather sign him outright, but Paul George seems like he wants to opt in and then do a sign-and-trade and, again, stay on the West Coast, so that kind of seems like it's not going to happen really much anymore. Kevin Durant, we'll see. The Rockets are really interested in him. Made a trade with the Nets last night to get more picks, to get Phoenix's picks from the Nets to try to give back to the Suns for Kevin Durant, but we'll see what happens there. And now Jimmy Butler. Look, the Heat obviously haven't really been willing to move Jimmy Butler, but they don't want to pay him either. And a lot of reports coming out recently have said things aren't great right now between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. So, is it the smartest thing to trade for Jimmy Butler and then pay the 35-year-old Jimmy $50+ million a year, for the next couple of years? I don't know. We'll see what happens tonight on draft night. Again, it's going to be wild. A lot of trades are going to happen, no doubt, in this draft. Sixers could pull off a big one, could pull off a smaller one like they did a few years ago when they traded their pick for DeAnthony Melton. Could be something similar to that. So we'll see, but whether it's Jimmy Butler, a Brennan Ingram, maybe they trade for some role players like a Dorian Finney-Smith. I do expect something to happen tonight, so make sure you're tuned into our stream and stay locked in because it's going to get wild.
As I always say with the Sixers, lifelong fan. I started rooting on this team in 1996 when I was 4 years old, and the Sixers drafted Allen Iverson then. I'm ready to get hurt. And just like the Sixers' playoff runs, I feel as though their pursuit of a star is going to be close, but they're not going to get that star. Just like in the playoffs where they get close, but they can't get past the second round. I hope I'm wrong, but I've been ingrained to think that way because the Sixers always let me down. Will the 76ers keep their pick, or will they trade it for a star? T for trade, K for keep. And we are 50 people away from 16,000 subscribers. Help us reach that goal prior to the draft. And if we don't get there before the draft, I think we'll get there during the draft. We'll catch you in a few hours. Chip, Chase, we out. Peace.